Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Leilani. You could also call me Lay. Today I want to start a reading vlog. So basically I've been in a dark romance, Mafia type of mood, and I found a new romance series. So I already finished the first book and I didn't even know there's going to be more books in the series. So in total right now there's 5 books. So finished book 1. It's called The Devil's Deal, and basically we follow around 2 perspectives. We follow around Dominic and Kiara, and they were childhood best friends. Dominic grew up in a loving household but didn't have enough money, like their family doesn't have a lot of money. And then Kiara didn't grow up in a loving household. Her father was very verbally and physically abusive to her and her mother, and at school nobody would hang out with her because they were scared of her father. So the only friend that she ended up having is Dominic, and you could tell at a young age that they really cared for each other and that they really loved each other. But Dominic's mom ends up into a car accident and dying. So during that time, Kiara and her mom basically hang out with Dominic, his brothers, and his father. And 3 months have passed, and during those 3 months, things start to change. Kiara and Dominic start having feelings for each other, but they're too scared to admit it. And they're like 13 at this point. But one day Dominic is waiting for his father to come home and he's not there yet, so he goes out searching for him, and he ends up witnessing his father's murder. It's his father and his youngest brother, their murder, and the person who murdered them is Kiara's father, and Kiara's father is part of the mob, and basically he said that he was going to kill the rest of his family. So Dominic at a young age basically takes his brothers and runs away. But during that time, Kiara's father also took her phone and texted Dominic and said hurtful things, but the gist of it is like, I don't want to be your friend, I don't ever want to see you again, you're kind of trash. And he took that to heart because of all the emotional stuff that's already happening. So 15 years have passed, and Kiara is now like head of one of her dad's companies, and she doesn't like her dad, she doesn't care for him. And Dominic and his brothers have built this reputation and now have the financial money and strength to take down her father. And by doing so, they're basically killing a lot of his men and burning up his establishments. During this time, Dominic forms a plan and decides to kidnap Kiara, but doesn't show who he is. So she thinks he's a different person named Brian. And even though she's kidnapped, he still tries to care for her. And like there's a lot of tension and a lot of mixed emotions happening, but she finds out like he is the person who is destroying her father's companies, and she wants to help him with that. A lot of things happen, but basically she finds out who he really is and gets highly upset because she's been missing her best friend for all these years, and she's been assuming he's been dead because she hasn't been able to reach him. So there's a lot of emotions happening. I did like this book. I gave it 3 stars, and that's why I'm continuing the series, because 2 of the brothers, Dante and Enzo, I'm curious to see how their stories come out because I really liked how Enzo was portrayed. So he's going to be the 3rd book, I think. But I said I really enjoyed the action. There's a lot of brutal scenes, but I really enjoyed the action. There's a lot of steamy scenes. I enjoyed their banter. I think what I don't like about this, it is that it is a miscommunication trope. And again, it's not my cup of tea, but that's how it is for this book, but I still like the book. There were some soft, like, domestic cute scenes between Kiara and Dominic, and I really liked that. It was really, like, it helped the book a lot because of all the high stakes demands that are happening. So the tropes I put is like miscommunication, it's like friends to enemies to lovers, false identity, and then I did do Stockholm Syndrome because like she was kidnapped and they developed feelings or whatever. I started the 2nd book already. It's called The Devil's Pawn, and basically we're following around Dante, who is Dominic's younger brother, and his love interest is Kiara's cousin, and her name is Raquel. And basically Raquel is forced to be in an arranged marriage to this guy named Carlito, and Carlito is trash. We don't like him at all. And she's like, she needs to run away and get away from the whole situation because she doesn't want to marry him. And what happens is she doesn't run into Dante's arms, but basically she's really in this sad, depressive state, and she's like, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what I'm saying? So she's at a bar and she's like contemplating her life and thinking about what she's gonna do when this guy comes up to her, Dante, and he starts flirting with her and they start talking, and then basically they come up with this deal, and his thing is he needs to be married because of some business proposal, but the person who's doing it wants to see that he is happily married and stable. So they get married, and now they're staying with each other at his house. And how am I feeling? If I'm gonna be honest, this book, I think I'm 33% into it. I'm on chapter 10, and I don't know. I think because it takes place during the time the first book takes place, and I feel like it would have been more beneficial if we do it where they left off at the first book. I'm not doing spoilers, and maybe I should, but basically at the end of book 1, Raquel gets kidnapped by Carlito, and her husband Dante gets upset, and they're all about to go find her. And I think that's where book 2 should have started, but instead book 2 starts off with, you know, them, how they met. And I don't know, the writing's okay in this one. I feel like it's lacking something, and I don't know what it is yet, but I will give you an update when I have one. So basically she made like ground rules about like no kissing, no touching, no sex, you know what I'm saying? And he's very flirtatious with her, and they're both attracted to each other, so you could tell like it's not gonna work out. But I'll give you an update when I have one. So I'm halfway through the second book. It's The Devil's Pawn, and interesting things are happening. I'm gonna have to start spoiling stuff because then everyone's gonna get confused. In the first book, Kiara, she was working she was a manager of one of her dad's strip clubs, and when Dom and his brothers basically ransacked the place, there was a stripper there. Her name is Joelle, and the youngest brother, Enzo, he ended up taking her with him because she makes the most money and stuff, so she's been living with him. So now it's interesting because he just called up the brothers and was like, hey, I just got some information from her, and she said that they are doing worse things than they imagined. So apparently they're also trafficking kids and women, right? And that's a no-go area. I don't like when that shit happens. But Joelle is telling him because she also has an 8-year-old son. So now Dante and Enzo are going to go basically see this lawyer dude that is employed by Kiara's father, and get information out of him because he apparently knows everything. I just want them to get her kid. Yeah, so I'm excited for Enzo's book, so the next book, because he's also very, like, he's supposed to be like he's the youngest, he's a playboy, he's very happy-go-lucky and like carefree, but also, you know, kills people. But Dante is having feelings for Raquel, and his dilemma is that they're gonna kill her father because her father was a part of his father and his youngest brother's murder. So I was gonna say assassination, so it is, yeah, but basically he was a part of it. So the goal was to take her away from him because he loves his daughter, and then use her to get him to come out of hiding. And now that he's developing feelings, he's feeling like he's not supposed to because she's part of the enemy side, but she has no parts of it. But if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like there's a lot of mood swings and mood shifts that don't make sense for the characters, and they're kind of lacking chemistry. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, if you read it and their dialogue, they don't really know each other. They just find attraction to each other, but he knows about her because he's been like watching her for a year or so. So I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. They're about to break in the lawyer's house and find him, so I'll give you an update when I have one. Okay, so the lighting's very off. But I'm 70% inside the book of the second book, A Devil's Pawn, and it's getting so good. There's so much action happening and I'm having the time of my life. Basically, Raquel found out why Dante has her. So like his dark secret that he was too scared to admit to her about. And she called her mother, who is trash, and her mother betrayed her and called her fiance, who is also trash, and he basically kidnapped her, and now he's basically holding her hostage and threatening her because her mom knows that she was married to Dante. Dante is going ballistic. He is like, where's my wife? And in order to protect her, he had to not chase the van she's in. And I'm just having a good time. I think the reason why I didn't like the first half was because it was like talking about the stuff that happened in the first book, like a summary but not a summary, and it was not working for me. But now that they actually formed a connection, I'm excited, and the action is good and people are dying. I do think I'm gonna like the third book better, only because I like Enzo's personality, and there's gonna be a baby, or a kid, not a baby. He's gonna be 8 years old. So I'm gonna finish the book, and then my last update will be what I'm giving it. So right now it's at a 3-star. Like the first half kind of sucked, but now it's picking up. And I'm excited because we still have like 30% left of the book, so I'm hoping he gets her first, because they haven't even had a conversation about what's been going down. Like, she doesn't know that his father helped assist kill Dante's dad, but then also she doesn't know that her father is a part of like human trafficking, because he's trash. Okay, so I finished The Devil's Pawn, and I'm giving this a 3.5 stars. The ending is what turned it around. Lillian Harris, she knows how to write an ending, some plot twists, and cliffhangers. But basically, let me give you an update. I don't remember what I said. So Raquel got kidnapped. She was betrayed by her mother. Her mother called her shitbag of a fiance, Carlito, and Carlito kidnapped her. During that time, Carlito ended up shooting some of Dante's guards, and the ones that survived got a call from Dante to give him a heads up of what happened. So when Dante finds them in a van, Carlito has a gun to her head and is basically like, you're gonna leave us alone or I'm gonna shoot her. So to protect his girl, he leaves, but he ends up getting the information of where she's at. I hate Carlito. Anyways, so he kidnaps Raquel and holds her tied up, captive, in this like cellar place, and her dad is there. Her dad's name is Sal. Also, if you hear stuff in the background, the trash people are here to pick up the trash. But basically, oh my god, I feel so bad. Also, this book gets more brutal, like more in detail of torture scenes. Her dad is there, and he's basically like to Carlito, go ahead and punish her, do whatever you want, because she shouldn't have run away, and she's now trash. She is now worthless and all this other stuff. So he leaves his daughter to get tortured by this sick bastard. Oh my god. And then when Dante comes in, justified. You can't tell me otherwise. Everything Dante did to make sure his girl felt safe and wanted is justified, because fuck Carlito. Fuck that man. Oh my god, I was so pissed off. I was like, I can't wait. Cannot wait. His death scene. Just because fuck him. But anyways, a week passed from the incident and Raquel is feeling better, so they decide to have like a family dinner. So it's Dom and Kiara from the first book. It is now Dante and Raquel, and then also Enzo and Joelle. I don't know if I mentioned who Joelle is, but Joelle is a stripper that worked for the strip club Kiara was managing that was owned by her father. And she is the top earner of the strip club, but you find out a little bit about her story and that she is one of the girls. Her and two of her friends were like on a road trip, and Raquel's and Kiara's father basically kidnapped them and are using them for their bodies and stuff for human trafficking. So you find out more about that. So you find out more about like her background. You find out she has like an 8-year-old son who she could only see once a month for 10 minutes. And you find out who the baby daddy is. And it turns out to be one of Raquel's and Kiara's uncles. And during all this, you also find out that Kiara is pregnant with Dom's kid. But during their little party, they ended up getting like a chef. And turns out that chef, bad guy, he was related to Carlito. And then they basically have an attack on the house, and Kiara gets shot, and then all hell breaks loose. They end up killing one of their cousins and somebody else, but the other brother, I'm hoping it's the last brother, his name is Angelo, so that's I don't even want to call him the baby daddy. He's just a fucking shitbag. Angelo is the person who forced himself onto Joelle, and she had his kid. Basically, he ran away after people started getting shot and dying. But during this time, you find out Kiara lost her baby, and because of this, there's a lot of like retaliation happening on Dom's side of the family, right? All the 3 brothers, but they end up finding out the location of where the women and children are. So they go there and they end up finding all these women and kids in like cages, and they're setting them free and making sure they're going to be better. But then they find this little boy who is 8 years old, and his name is Robbie, and he's Joelle's kid. But at the last second, you find out he's not breathing. Oh. And that's the cliffhanger. So this is a 3-star book. The ending is what really sold it, and I think I mentioned it before. I think at the beginning I was gonna give it a 2-star because I didn't feel the connections between the characters, but also it was basically a summary of what happened in the first book. But now I'm reading the 3rd book, and Enzo is my favorite character. Well, I don't want to say favorite character. He is my crush in the series. But basically, I'm 17% in, so I'm on chapter 4. This one is called The Devil's Secret, and it's told in 2 perspectives. I just want to hug Joelle. She deserves to be loved. Oh my god. And how caring Enzo is towards her at the moment. But I have to be in a meeting soon, so I'll give you an update of what the book is actually about when my meeting's over. Okay, goodbye. You could tell it's later. It's really late. It's like 10 p.m. I finished book 3. It is my favorite out of all of them. And it is my favorite couple out of all the couples. And I knew Enzo was going to be my boyfriend. Like, I knew immediately he was going to be my book boyfriend. He is a caretaker at heart. Period, point blank. He gives nose kisses and forehead kisses. And he just wants to take care of Joelle. That is his goal in life. But basically, this is 6 months prior to like all of the killings, right? So this is how they met, and then you get to the ending, the cliffhanger of book 2. So how they met is Enzo goes into the strip club that she works at. She's dancing on Carlito, who is Raquel's fiance, and Dante's there basically buying bottles for Carlito to get inside information. Dante hates Carlito. But immediately he goes in there, he sees her, he's basically like, she's too beautiful and too precious for these sleazy men to touch her or talk to her or look at her. And his number one goal now is to protect her at all costs. Immediately there's a connection because he sees something in her that reflects on himself. I think there's a quote that I have. Okay, so this is what he says that reflects on him. So she's basically like disassociating with what she's doing because she's numb to everything. I'm also blurry, sorry. He says, I focus on her for far too long, fascinated by her, akin to the distance in her gaze. I feel like that sometimes. My mind and my body aren't in sync, like I was meant to be someone else. And I'm like, so what he does to get to know her but also protect her from trash men is he ends up buying, every time he goes in, he gets a private room, right? So there's no cameras, there's no people looking, and it's supposed to be like a private dance session for whoever pays top dollar. But instead of making her dance for him, he's like, we're gonna chill and get to know each other and have conversations, and they form a friendship, and it's really cute. Unfortunately, she is very scared, rightfully so, of her employer because they're trash. This book goes into semi-details of sexual assault. So in the beginning, there's a scene where she's getting sexually assaulted, and I just want to give her a hug. She deserves the world, and I am happy that her boyfriend is Enzo because I cried during this book. I cried during the first half. I was really sad for her and her life situation. But basically, Enzo finds out that this guy hurt her, right? And he follows this dude while he's driving, and the guy sees him, and he gets out of his car with his bat, and he's like, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I didn't see you following me? And he's like, you're messing with the wrong person. So then Enzo gets out of his car, shoots the dude in the neck, walks up to him, cuts off that dude's dick, and then shoves that dude's dick in the guy's mouth. And he's like, eat your dick, basically. And I'm like, so, hello. In my head, I'm like, Enzo's a precious baby, but he also murders on occasion. But he basically was like, you touched the wrong girl, fuck you, you're not gonna live. And they dispose of his body. And basically anybody who talks shit or disrespects his girl or harms her, you're not living, you're not seeing the sunshine the next day. And good for him. Good for him protecting her, because he gives her like all these compliments and like appreciations and making sure she knows how valuable she is, because her self-esteem is very low because the men that she was associated with, because they're fucking trash, treated her like such. And she was scared, one, that if she gets into a relationship she's not supposed to be in one, that her employees will kill Enzo or kill her son. And then on top of that, she's too scared to fall in love with him because she's scared that because of all the men that she was forced to be with, Enzo would look at her different, and then like, she's so precious. But Enzo's like, I don't care about all that. He's like, I want to make sure you're good. So usually in like books like this, when like a character breaks down crying immediately, it's like, I don't know, it's regular sex or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But he basically makes sure she feels comfortable and they don't have sex, like intercourse, whatever, you know what I'm saying, until like weeks later, because, or weeks or months later. I don't actually know the timeline. Timelines in here are kind of iffy. But he's there to protect her. But we also learn a lot of stuff in here. So we get to know Joelle's backstory. We learn some stuff about her mom and about her brother, and we find out later in the end of, like near the end of the book, the cliffhangers start coming in, right? So, or plot twist. One is her brother, his name's Elliot. He ended up enrolling into the army because he wanted to get stronger to find his sister, because the police weren't able to find Joelle, and he just wanted to be stronger and then look for his sister. But he ended up getting hurt in the army and then discharged, and he started working like as a guard for Dante. So then he ended up seeing Joelle and they rekindled. She ended up getting her kid back. He is alive. He was sick. And then you find out, dun 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 dun, that Matteo, Dante's, Enzo's, and Dominic's, someone's texted me, you find out that Mateo, Dominic's, Dante's, and Enzo's youngest brother, the one that got shot and killed, is actually alive. He ended up surviving getting shot, and Angelo, I think that's how you say it, Angelo, who is, I don't like saying baby father, even though like it's a true term, but he's a trash man. Angelo, who's the baby father of Joelle's kid, ended up taking him captive at a young age, so he's been staying with them. And we meet Mateo because Mateo is looking for Addie, I think it's Addie, who is Angelo's daughter, because I think they're in a relationship. And you could tell Mateo doesn't fuck with nobody. He's like, I don't have no brothers, I don't know who you are, it doesn't freaking matter. He was like, my only goal now is to get Addie, and she's gonna be in book 4. So I'm curious to see what's gonna happen there. We also, at the end of this book, they send all the evidence of the human trafficking stuff to the FBI and the news station, so everybody hopefully is alive. But yeah, that's basically all the big plot points. Oh, actually, I lied. Joelle's friends, the ones that got kidnapped with her, one of them is with her, and then the other one ended up escaping, but she ended up escaping into a car that belongs to a different Mafia family, so I don't even know what's happening with her. So there is that. I'm kind of interested in seeing book 4 because I think the timeline's going to be different since Mateo wasn't really mentioned in these last 3 books. But I'm going to start reading that soon. Okay, I'll give you an update when I have one. Goodbye. Okay, so I finished book 5, and it's called The Devil's Den, and I gave it a 2-star. This one is a rough read and a like very emotional, brutal read, because we're following around 2 kids who are being physically, mentally, and emotionally abused from the age 8 to their current age, which is 23. And there are some in detailed scenes of them being forced to do things that they don't want to do. So, trigger warning for animal cruelty, sexual abuse. I don't even know, like there's so much stuff. It's a lot. Basically, we follow Mateo, who is 8 years old, who is being held captive by Angelo, and Angelo's goal is to make him a soldier. And then we have the other perspective, which is Audie, who I was calling Addie in the last clip. Her name's Audie, and she is Angelo's daughter, but he is emotionally, mentally, and physically abusive to her and treats her like she's nothing. But then he lets her bring food down to Mateo in the basement so they could be friends or form a connection. So by the age they turn 9, they become best friends because she's isolated. The only person that's around her age she hangs out with is Mateo. She's not allowed to go to school. She doesn't have any other friends. So they form a friendship, like an akin bond with each other, because they're both going through things that are similar but also different. And at the age of 9, basically, Angela's like, I'm gonna teach you how to kill. And Mateo doesn't want to do it. So in order to force him to kill things or people, he uses Audie as a incentive, you could say. His thing is saying, well, if you don't do this, I'm gonna hurt her. And then eventually when they both start growing up, he loses a lot of his child behaviors because of all the stuff he has to endure. And the only happiness he has is when Audie is with him, because they always talk about their goals and their dreams and what they wish that they could have in the world. Eventually, something happens where like Angelo feels disrespected from Mateo and his daughter Audie, where he takes his daughter and brings her to a not even, I don't want to call it a sex club, but basically a club where all the women and children are being trafficked, and she gets sexually assaulted multiple times by multiple people. And this is not the book for me. This is a 2-star, because realistically there's so much trauma that happens in this book where it's not enough payout for somebody to continue. And even the death scenes that are caused to Angelo, in my perspective, not brutal enough. And it's a 2-star. It was a hard read. I think the best part about the book is the connection you could see between Matteo and Audie, because they form a friendship and it grows more to feelings of being in love with each other, and their goal is, in mine, is to protect each other. But yeah, I can't, no, they deserve all the happiness in the world as characters. They were reunited with his brothers. You find out later in the book that Angelo wasn't even Audie's actual father. He ended up kidnapping her mother and her, and she's been captive, and she didn't know because she was captive since a young age. So at the end, she rekindles with her actual biological father. And yeah, there's another book. I don't know if we're gonna find the friend Elsie, because they mentioned that in the last section, or if it's just like where they're at now in their lives. So I'm curious to see what's gonna happen, but this book did make me feel really sad. It was very emotionally draining, and it's a 2-star. So I will see you. Hopefully the next book is more happiness. I hope, because it's all characters now, so I'm hoping we get perspective of how everybody's doing current day, because what's happening in all of the books, it's all the past, and then the current day happens the last third of the book. So that's where I'm at. I'll give you the last update when I'm finished with the last book. Okay, so I finished the 5th book. It's called The Devil's Demise, and it is everyone's perspective. It's all happily ever afters. You get to see everyone get married and have kids and see how they're feeling. Unfortunately, I'm gonna give it a 2-star. It didn't really do anything for me, and I think it's because the last book was so emotionally draining. But I feel like my favorite perspectives out of all of them were Enzo's and Jade's story, and then also Matteo and Audie. I think those two are my favorite ones. But it's just like quick snapshots of what people are doing. So yeah, I don't really have anything to say other than that. But yeah, so I finished all the books. I could say that. I think if I was gonna rank them of my favorites, it would be Enzo and Jade, who goes by Joelle, so the 3rd book. It would be, I'll probably be like 3, 2, 1, 4, 5. Maybe I'll do 5 before 4. I would never reread book 4. That one was too much for me. I couldn't do it. So maybe it's 3, 2, 1, 5, 4 in the order of if I read it again. But I think I want to take a break from Mafia romance for right now and maybe do some fantasy or something. So I hope you like this video. Feel free to like and subscribe. You don't have to. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But if you would like to support me, please like and subscribe. If you have any, I guess, romance books you want me to read, because that's basically what I've been reading all year, just comment them down below. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye.